So this is actually one of my most anticipated interviews for this Writers Festival. Katya, you are maybe single-handedly the person who got me to finish 10 books. So I
Wow.
want to introduce to everyone at the Logan Writers Festival and beyond, Katya, the owner, operator, and artisan for
Creator.
the Novel Factory, one of our fantastic sponsors this year. So you are sponsoring all of the prizes that are going out this year for all of the Writers Festival, which is the Novel Factory software. So thank you so much for joining me all the way from the UK.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm
It
really
is
proud
an
to be
absolute
sponsoring
pleasure.
the festival and being a part of that.
Oh, I'm so pleased that you said yes. I was so excited because honestly, for me, if I had had your software when I was in high school, I would have finished a good 100 books by now. It made life so much easier and it put everything where it needed to go. So thank you.
Oh, that's perfect. That's like, music to my ears because that's what we want to do, just make it demystify, writing a novel and motivate people to get it finished. So yeah, hearing success stories like yours is just perfect.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, you know what, it was really interesting because in the novel software you get the ability to go through the biggest one is the hero's journey, and I realized then when I was going through the hero's journey that it didn't fit with mystery novels. Like, it's a very different sort of
Yeah.
progression for a mystery novel, and so I looked through, I think it was the mystery and thriller one that is also part of the Novel Factory, and still ended up tweaking that. But you're able to do that in the software, and I made it into cozy mystery format for myself. So tell us a bit about how the Novel Factory started for you.
Well, it was because I was writing. I wanted to write novels myself, and I happened to be running a very small web design company, and we did a bit of software. And as I was writing, I was just using Word, and I just was always losing my notes, or I would have character profile sheets, and I would keep overwriting the master one and have to go out, delete all the answers again. And I just couldn't find anything. I was spending all my time trying to put all the files in the right folders, and I didn't want to be doing that. So I thought there's got to be a way that technology can solve this. And I did look around to see if there was something else on the market available at the time. But there was, but I found it too complicated and like the learning curve too steep. And I was like, I already don't have enough time to do my writing. I can't do a course in how to learn the software to help me with my writing. So basically I knew what I wanted for myself. So I got my software developer to kind of, do a prototype. And that was the very first version. And that was over 10 years ago, I think, the desktop version. And we just start, and it was just for me really. And then I thought, well, we've got the thing, we might as well give it to other people if they want it. So we sold that. And it was very slow going at first, and just selling a few copies a month. But as time went on, it got more popular, and we started selling more, and we're on the third version now. And it's my main thing, it's my baby, and it's the sole focus of our business now. So yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. So what were you writing?
Well, I tend to write middle grade fantasy, so children's fantasy. And I was writing that at the time. But that's morphed, and the book that I'm submitting now, it is actually does have its roots in that original novel, but it's changed so much over time, it's almost unrecognizable. But I write young adult fantasy as well, and I'm actually like dabbling in a cozy mystery now, so I might have to get your
Oh,
advice on that because I'm a bit out of my depth, to be perfectly honest with you, with that one.
you know what, with cozy mysteries, I think I really moved from cozy mystery into just teen mystery, because cozy mysteries have a very strict rule apparently where you can't show any violence and the detective is never in any direct danger. And I
Okay.
love to throw Wolflock into all sorts of danger, and so for me, like, the most danger in a cozy is normally at the climax when they're just about to confront the big bad, and then they have some backup come in to help them with the arrest.
Yeah.
And so they're very charming kind of stories. I love them. I think they're really
Yeah.
safe. Like Miss Fisher's Murders is one. That's a really, like, it's based in Melbourne, Victoria, and it's so cute and it's so delightful to watch on TV and also to read. And I've got some that are on my, like, to read list. I'm just trying to think. Where are they? They're all based in Africa. Oh, the Ladies Detective Agency.
Oh, yes, I know those.
Yes, those count as cozy mysteries. Um,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, really beautiful stories. My grandma always said that you could smell Africa and you could feel the heat and the sand when you read them. And
Yeah.
so they sort of have that nostalgia for me.
And I think here in the UK, they're often set in like very kind of parochial villages, places that have lots of like flowers everywhere, and
Yeah.
a kind of a vicar and a woman that runs the flower shop and all that kind of thing, and it's all very peaceful. And then there's this like mystery to solve.
And then someone gets murdered.
Yeah, exactly. But off screen. Yes, exactly.
Off screen, always off screen.
Yeah.
It makes me think of things like Midsummer Murders and that sort of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Miss
yeah.
Marple, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
delightful. You know what? For murder mysteries and sometimes quite horrible things that happen, like poisoning and inheritance issues and family drama, you can't describe a cozy mystery without using the word delightful.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean.
Oh, so where do you think the Novel Factory will lead in the future?
Well, there's so much more we want to do with it. So it's like the core of it is there. Like it can take care of all of your characters. Like like I said, it's got the profiles now, so you can't overwrite it. You just fill it in, and it generates a new one for each character, all that sort of thing. And it's got quite a lot of plotting tools, like you were talking about with the plot templates. We're really proud of the plot templates. But there's still work to be done with them because, like you say, the cozy mystery, and as I'm learning more about mysteries and thrillers as well, I feel like there's tweaks I could make to those plot templates to make them even better. But there's just so much more we want to do, like character relationship charts is something
Oh
I'm
my
like
gosh,
really
yes.
want to get going. And a lot more editing tools, to help out with grammar, pacing, all of that kind of thing. Possibly integrations, with existing ones rather than us trying to reinvent the wheel with it. So I feel like there's just so much more I want to do with the software before I'll consider it finished and, really ready. And then we'll probably start on version 4.
I think one of my favorite things with version 3 was the ability for you to track your word count through each day. So you get to set your goal for how many words you want to write. And in Australia, in Logan, I was able to secure a Regional Arts Development Fund grant. So I got
Fantastic.
$8,000 to write the last 4 books of the Wolflock cases.
How
Uh,
wonderful.
Oh, it was amazing. I was so grateful. So the last 4 books all have a dedicated spot to show off the RADF grant. And I was able to be kept on track by watching my word count go up every day, and
Yeah.
by seeing that graph. So I actually have screenshots of the graph and I was putting it on my socials and everything just to be like, look, I am writing it. It is getting
Yes.
done. And
It's very satisfying.
I think I had a 14,000 word day or something because of it. And
Wow.
so in 3 months, I had written over 160,000 words. So
That is
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Ah, it's
And
so good for
seeing those
keeping you
little
on track.
lines go up exactly, and compared to like this is where you should be and this is where you are, and it's just really.
Mhm.
And that's another area where we've got a lot of ideas for improve, things we can enhance that with. For example, notifications, so that if people sign up to them, then you can get a little ping saying you haven't done your words today, would you like to do your words now, and that kind of thing. Motivate. And also linking with other people, so you can connect with your friends and you can compare how many words you've done compared to them. I'm a very competitive person, so I find that really helpful. If someone's got a few hundred
Yeah.
words more than me, they're like, well, maybe I can find time to do a few hundred more.
Getting those leaderboards up.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that would be really motivational too.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that sounds so exciting. I think for me, I would really love to see some kind of like world or story timeline ability so that you
Yeah.
can drop points in to be like, this is when this event happens and this is when this event happens, because a lot of authors have issues with math. And so getting the years and the dates right and the calendars right, and they jump all over the place. I think actually that was probably one of my biggest issues with the Harry Potter books. I'm like, what season are we in? What month are we in? I don't know what's happening.
I see what you mean. Yeah. So
Mm.
because we had the timeline in version 2, and we just haven't managed to add that to version 3 yet, just because there's so much to do and we are a really small team. But yes, that is definitely a timeline is basically the next on the list for major kind of updates. That plus the Mac version, because we get a lot of Mac users contacting us
Ah.
saying, we want a desktop Mac version, make us a, you know, so we're like, we're doing
you,
it.
you get Vellum, bugger off.
Yeah. Yeah, Vellum is lovely, isn't it?
Yes, you know what? I know some authors that have Mac computers specifically to have Vellum. That's the only thing they
Yeah.
use the computer for, just for Vellum.
Yeah. Well, we have I've had one or two people tell me that they either were going to or had gotten a Windows laptop just to use our software, earlier versions. And I was like, wow, that is like the greatest accolade. But yeah, obviously version 3 works in a browser. So you can use it on a Mac anyway. You just can't get the downloadable version yet.
I think it was 5 years ago, my friends and I all got like we all found little plastic folders with plastic sleeves in it. And we three of us printed out the original, this is the format for writing a story in a year. So all that OG stuff. And I'm pretty sure I've still got it in a folder somewhere in my bookcase.
Nice.
But yeah, so just something like that is it's so encouraging, because finishing stories is often the issue that very new writers have. Like they have a good idea, they have a good scene, and then they don't know where it belongs and they don't know how to get to the next spot.
Yeah,
And that's what I found
absolutely.
was so useful.
And I think that's it. Like for me, it's all about breaking things down into manageable pieces, because just writing a novel is just so nebulous, and you just kind of
Mhm.
get started and then you don't know where you're going. Whereas if you're like, well, you're not writing a novel, first you're just doing the plan, then you're expanding on that, then you're doing your characters. And I put it in the roadmap for myself, same as the software, the roadmap that I've created. I don't know if your listeners will know, that's within the software, but also available for free on our website, a step-by-step guide to writing a novel. And that was my own method that I formalized for myself to try to make sure I was being efficient, and doing things in the right order. And it was or not the right order, but the order that worked for me. And it was like lots of different things taken from like lots of different writing books of, this is how you develop characters, this is how you develop plot. And then I put them into, well, this is the order that makes sense for me to do these
Mm.
things. And yeah, absolutely, the idea is to take it and run with it. Everybody works differently, everybody wants to use a different method, so it's meant to be like a jumping off point. And I think newer writers might use it quite closely with their first novel, and then with the next novel they're going to go, well, actually I didn't need that bit, or I want to do that characters first, or I want, and I'm like, that's it, that's exactly what I want people to do.
And you know what? When I've skipped steps in it, oh, that's my partner. Hi, Tyson. Um, when I've skipped steps in the past, so it's like I'll do the synopsis and that's fine. I'll do like the short synopsis, then the extended synopsis. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't need to do the scene blocking. I'm good to go now. Like I've got it all sorted. And that's when I will sit there at the computer. Like I might fly through the first couple of chapters and then I'll sit there at the computer going, how do they get to this next spot? And if I know this is like 3 times I've done this, and I know that if I just did the scene blocking, I would know how A gets to B.
Yeah, and I did that. I also try to skip the scene blocking sometimes, but then I find that my first draft just ends up so sort of sketched out that it is like scene blocking anyway, and I'm like racing through it. And yeah, I think the last one I did, I was like, I'll just bash out a first draft, I won't bother with the scene blocking. But it was like only 25,000 words and it needed to be 75, and I was looking at it going, I mean, that's basically scene blocking there. It's just using a slightly different form, but that's fine. Yeah, so now I'm redrafting, and I think I've got to like 15,000 words, and it was, you know, only 3,000 in the first bit, so it's really expanding with the detail.
And I think that it's good for both sides of that. So it sounds like you and I write very similarly, where we
Sounds like
sort of, we're too concise.
it. Yeah.
Um, but then we've got other authors that have the ability to write a good 300,000 words and still not feel like they've said everything they need to say. But when
Yeah.
you've got these things in order, like when you know what the expected format is, you know then how you can break the rules safely, and then how you can be a little bit more exposition-y. But yeah, it's able to keep all of that quite tight. So you're not waffling, you're not world
Yeah.
building where you needed action. And you
Yeah.
know where you can start putting in the more relaxed information blocks that are going to help the audience feel like they're part of the world.
And I think something that I've really learned more in the last few years is really understanding the heart of your story, like the absolute core or the spine, to use too many metaphors, but you know, the what's at the heart of it. Because I think it's easy, or certainly what I tended to do, was have too many ideas, and I would have too much going on, and you couldn't really see the inner through line. And some of the
Story of my
courses I've
life.
and it is real life, really. But yes, some of the courses I've been on more recently really like force you to work out what is the absolute, you know, one line heart of your story. And obviously the one page, which if you're going for traditional publishing, you need a one-page synopsis to try to, you know, show an agent and convince them that your book's amazing. But even if you're self-publishing, you know, knowing that through line, knowing that heart is going to come across to your readers. And I find that really, really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so good. I was recently reading, I haven't quite finished it, but Lisa Cron did the book The Story Genius. And she
Ah,
talks
yes.
about, yeah, instead of hearts, it's rails. And so
Uh,
you want like, I feel like she lined it up with stair railing. So as you were going either up or down the stairs, your hand is always on the rail. I think that was her metaphor, but essentially it was, what is the bit that you never deviate from in your story? Like, what is
yeah,
the core message or the core conflict that is going to drive your story or
yeah, yeah,
guide your
yeah,
story? Yeah.
yeah. And everything should relate to that, all of the subplots, all the
Hmm.
characters, you know, it should all relate to that core thing in some way. It shouldn't just be like a different thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's when you're going to lose people. I feel like that's the moment when you have readers and you have viewers or audiences start to say, yeah, that's where they lost the plot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when they're suddenly going, where is this going? You know, I don't understand where
Hmm.
this is going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when they published a first draft rather than
Yeah,
actually editing it and seeing if it was functional.
yeah, yeah. I think that does happen too much, unfortunately.
Mm. So how many users are there for the Novel Factory now?
Oh, I don't know. I would have to go and check. It's in the thousands, I think, but yeah, something like that.
No, that's fine. So I didn't ask you for any numbers before we started.
No,
I'm
I
just
could
springing
have,
stuff on you.
yeah, I could have looked it
Uh,
up.
Oh, that's really cool. I This has just been so exciting. We've been emailing each other for years,
We have,
and this is the first time I've actually get to see your face in motion. So,
yeah, and
thank
voice as well. It's lovely to hear your voice.
yes, oh, thank you. It's lovely to hear yours as well. So, uh, tell us a bit about the prizes that you have provided for for the Logan Writers Festival for this year.
Yeah, so we're offering subscriptions for the Novel Factory. So we've got all three levels available, I believe, as prizes.
Hmm.
So the basic subscription, you get full access to the software. There's no features that we don't include in any of the subscriptions, but in the basic subscription, it's just for one novel. So it's more for like if you're starting out, you just want to try things out. And then there's standard subscriptions, which allow an unlimited number of novels. So that's if you're more serious about writing, or you want to do multiple novels at the same time. And then we have the premium level, which just gives you a lot more space, So if you're writing epic fantasy novels with hundreds of characters, then the premium makes sure that there's enough room going on for that.
Beautiful. And you know what? Having a series is what normally makes an author successful. If you have just a standalone book, it's like you have that story within you, you put it out, you do a good job, but you're not looking to actually make a career out of that. If you've got only
Yeah.
one story, a career does not make.
No.
So I always recommend people find a way to develop their work into a series, something that stays to the same genre with similar or the same characters, because it makes it so much more marketable. It makes it so much more relatable for your audience. They fall in love with the characters and they get to stick with them, and they get to stick with the world that you've created for much longer than if you just do, just, oh yeah, here's one story, or here's my single trilogy, and that's me done and dusted. Okay, where are my
Yeah.
royalties?
Absolutely. I think if you want to make a career out of it, you have to treat it that way. You need to be able to keep writing books. As you say, if you're writing one book, then, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but it's not going to make a living for you. And like you say, when someone knows they already like the characters and the setting, then it's easy for them to buy the next one and the next one and the next one. Whereas if it's a whole new thing, it's a leap of faith for them to know whether they're going to like it and whether they should invest that time in reading it.
It's I heard someone say recently that people or readers are series loyal first. So they are series loyal first, then they are genre loyal, and then they are loyal to the author.
Oh, right. Interesting.
So it's loyal to the author last. And this
Yeah.
is really evident with the Dresden Files. I've got them tucked away up here.
Yeah.
So the Dresden Files are fantasy noir. So you've got a noir detective, he's a wizard, and he goes around solving crimes that then eventually all turn out to be magically related. The same author has written a high fantasy series that most of the noir readers will not touch. So I don't know what his fantasy series is doing, but it has different characters. It's in a different world. He loves Dungeons and Dragons. So you can, I feel like it's going to be akin to that. But most of his readers don't navigate over to the fantasy series because it's a completely different genre and it's a completely different series.
That is so interesting. And yeah, because there's is it Ian Banks and Ian M. Banks he publishes under as well. So he does like contemporary stuff and sci-fi stuff. So I'd be interested to see if that's the same.
And that's why pen names often are really good, because if you're writing in different genres, it's good to separate your identities, because the marketing will be totally different too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really aware of that with writing children's fantasy and young adult fantasy. I would need to, if I were lucky enough to get that published, I would need to have a different name on that, because you wouldn't want a 12-year-old accidentally picking up a book aimed at an 18-year-old, and getting
very different, very different maturity level with that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny with genres as well, isn't it? I think especially with fantasy and sci-fi, it's had a bit of with non-sci-fi fantasy readers, it's got a bit of a bad rep, for not having decent characters or decent plots and just being all about the geeking out. I think perhaps with Game of Thrones that's changed a bit, but my view was always like, well, if it's a fantasy book with rubbish characters, it's a rubbish book. It has to have those, has to have all of that stuff as well in any genre. So yeah, I'm a big defender of fantasy and sci-fi because I like it so much.
Oh, me too. And you know what? It has to be good though. Like it can't be garbage. You can't just write a dragon into a story and then believe that is going to make it awesome. You can't just have someone throwing fireballs and then believe that is what is the story. It's so much about the characters.
Exactly.
And you've got to write. I feel like understanding people is an essential part of writing good characters. The more time you spend with people or even just analyzing them, the better off you're able to write a diverse array of characters.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's all about the characters. It doesn't matter, yeah, whether it's set in deep space at the bottom of the ocean or in like, you know, an American school. It's all about the characters. That's what you're gonna kind of stay for and be, you know, touched by.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got a friend, one of our other authors, she absolutely loves reading gay vampire romance and like she desperately, desperately wants that to be good. And there's so little of it out there that is written well.
I
And
see.
I keep getting these reviews from her about, oh my god, like they ripped me off with this one, and I can't believe that they didn't do this with these characters. And she's like super annoyed. I just keep getting these messages about it, and it's absolutely brilliant because it just teaches us, like, okay, you can't just smack a label on something and believe that is what's going to make all the rest of it. You do have to learn your craft.
Yeah.
You have to practice your craft.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, she needs to write it, clearly.
Yeah, no, she's in the process of it, just out of
Yeah,
spite.
exactly.
Um, actually, that was another thing. So you have a world building questionnaire and a character questionnaire, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the original character questionnaire was like 280 questions or something like that.
something
But
like that was a lot.
oh my gosh, it like being able to fill that out and being able to answer those questions about your main character, if your main character remains relatively the same across your series, it helps so much to really get into the shoes. And you can tell when I haven't used it, even
Hmm.
just like going through the basic bits. So I remember I think it was my sixth, yes, it was my sixth book. I was like, oh, I've got a big cast here. It's going to be really tiring. I've got to I've got to rush through this to get the rest of them done. Oh no, not book 6, book 7. And I didn't use it. And it was the first time my editor said, Rhiannon, these characters kind of feel a bit blank, a bit flat. Like, what's
Ah.
happened with these ones? Because I'm not getting much differentiation in the personalities here. And I'm like, oh, I knew I should have done it. I knew I
I'll
should have done it.
well, I find filling out the character questionnaires is it's just like a rabbit hole because they'll just ask me a really simple question, you know, and I'll end up writing 3 pages of like, well, and then, and actually, this leads to, you know, and their favorite color is blue because of this experience when they were a child, and you know, all that kind of thing. So,
you
but I
I
love
do
it for that.
I do the same thing. It's just I had these characters for one book and I was like, no, I'll just go through it really quickly and I don't worry about it. But then I like I know that for the future ones, for the next season of the Wolflock Cases, I will be hammering those characters because he's in university and he's going to be very excited to be around the same people all the time. And I
Yeah.
really want to be able to give them that depth and life, that knowing these questions, even if it never comes up in the book, knowing these
Absolutely.
questions helps to give them that humanity, and
It
it
really
makes them so
does.
much more relatable.
That's the thing. People say that a lot. Like a lot of your research doesn't actually go directly into the words in the book, but you know, it just means that you know that person better and they feel that way to you and you know their motivations a bit more.
Mhm.
So yeah, it really makes a huge difference.
And that shines through in your writing so much. It shines
Yeah.
through, and you, like, my editor is very astute. No one else has said it, but the fact that she said it made me think, okay, so people are going to feel more cardboardy about this book overall because of
Yeah.
it. They're not going to know why. She's able to put it into words, but I need to make sure that they have more life.
Yeah. Sounds like you have a good
Oh,
editor.
oh, she's amazing. She's brilliant. Love her. She's terrified of me telling everyone that she's amazing, but she's great. Oh, thank you so much for coming with me today, Katya. It's 8 p.m. here nearly, and it's what, 10 or 11
It's
a.m.
coming
in
up
the
to
UK.
11, yeah. So coming up to midday-ish. Yeah, over here in the UK.
We'll get the times right in the future. It'll be fine. But thank you
Yes,
so
that daylight
much.
savings time.
Oh, you know what? It's not turned on here, but it messes with everything still.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, well,
Beautiful. Well,
thank you so much for having me as well.
no, this has been fantastic. It's been delightful to chat with you, and I will see you in the near future. And please go on to the Novel Factory and check it out. Make sure that you jump in on the Logan Chamber of Commerce's Logan Writers Festival President's Competition, where you can win not only the crown of being the Logan Laureate for the year, but also the premium Novel Factory subscription. So there will be other prizes given out on the day, but that is the gold ticket, and I am excited to be sharing that with you. So have a great day, and we will see you on September 9th and 10th at the Logan Writers Festival. Bye.
Bye.